I'm Mara Rosenberg. I have been an elementary school teacher for many years. And this last year, I read George by Alex Gino to my class. And we started off, George is a transgender girl and has not come out to anyone in her life at the beginning of the story. And I have distinct memories of my class being a little bit confused about that. There were some kids who were familiar with the idea, but some kids for whom this was completely new information. And there are several times in the book when people misgender George. And as I continued reading, the number of audible emotions coming from my students each time George was misgendered or came close to telling someone her secret and then didn't, showed me that the power of books to open windows for kids to lives that they hadn't even imagined could exist. So I'm going to read one of the first parts where we get a sense of what George is struggling with. Ms. Udell passed by George's desk. To be honest, I'm not sure what I think of a person who doesn't cry at the end of Charlotte's Web. You didn't, George mumbled. I did the first 3 times, and a good number of times since. Ms. Udell paused, and for a moment, it looked as if she might tear up right then. My point is, it takes a very special person to cry over a book. It shows compassion as well as imagination. Ms. Udell patted George's shoulder. Don't ever lose that, George. And I know you'll turn into a fine young man. The word man hit like a pile of rocks falling on George's skull. It was 100 times worse than boy, and she couldn't breathe. She bit her lip fiercely and felt fresh tears pounding against her eyes. She put her head down on her desk and wished she were invisible. Ms. Udell returned with the bathroom pass. It was a worn wooden block from a kindergarten class and read, "Boys," in thick green permanent marker on one side. George flipped the block over with a hollow slap so that the side facing her read, "Room 205. Ms. Udell put her hand on George's shoulder, but George shook her off and stood up. She could barely see her way to the classroom door through her tear-blurred eyes and navigated the hallway more from memory than sight. She stumbled, sobbing, into the boys' bathroom. Her lips trembled, and salty tears dripped into her mouth. George hated the boys' bathroom. It was the worst room in the school. She hated the smell of the pee and bleach. She hated the blue tiles on the walls to remind you where you were, as if the urinals didn't make it obvious enough. The whole room was about being a boy. And when boys were in there, they liked to talk about what was between their legs. George tried never to use it when there were any boys inside. She never drank from the water fountains at school, even if she was thirsty. And some days, she could make it through the whole day without having to go once.